everybody's lives too. So, okay, we're recording now. So for the purpose of the interview, can I get you both to state your full names and your roles with the King of Random? Janae, I'll start with you.
Okay, so I'm Janae Thompson, and I'm the owner of the company TKOR and MDM Productions.
Awesome.
And one of the founders, one of the two founders.
Wonderful.
And then, hi, I'm Grace. I am one of our hosts on the King of Random, and I am the newbie on our channel, and just so happy to be here.
I've seen the videos. I love your energy. It's so fun. So
thank you.
Tell our audience, what is the King of Random? How did it come about, Janae? I'd just like to know the backstory of how you guys came up with this idea, what went into putting it together and making it this really awesome show that a lot of people are watching now.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna divert to Grace on this one. So from the newbie's perspective, let's hear what the King of Random is, and then I'll go back and do the history. How does that sound?
I like that.
Okay.
I love that. Oh gosh. So the King of Random to me is a experience. It's a learning environment that has no limits. It's a space where you have the ability to be as creative as you want, make a mess, learn, and explore the world around you in a way that you're not limited. And to me, that's what I love most about being on the King of Random, is that you have Nate, Callie, me, Kenan, the whole team. And it's amazing because we have the artists, we have the scientists, we have everybody making one giant brain that allows us to put all of our heads together to create these experiences.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So how did you get involved? And what were you doing before?
Graduated from North Carolina State University. Go Wolfpack! I throw that in there. Am a student from North Carolina State University and studying meteorology. So from there, I received a message, and they're like, "We love your energy. We'd love for you to come screen test with us." And then the rest is history. I didn't know what I was hopping into, but I think that is what made it even specialer, was that I had no idea. Came in with an open mind, and I just let the other pieces fall into place, kind of like a science experiment that you don't know what's going to happen in the end, but you just go in with this open mind, and yeah, you just hope for the best at the end.
Yeah, which is what science is all about.
Yeah.
So I love that description Grace gave of, like from a newbie's perspective, because when we founded the company, it was based on this idea of exploration, and it came from 3 different sources. So my husband and I were the ones that started it. My husband was always the face of it. I was always the background, helping with, the ideas and sometimes the filming, not too often, but, lots of consulting. And as we would move forward, we would discuss what we were going to do next. And so my husband, Grant Thompson, was the original host, and he started this because he had this childlike wonder with everything that he would encounter. And so I remember one time, this is a great example of this. We were on our date night. We had a Tuesday night date night every week. And we would just kind of go through the week and hash out anything we needed to talk about and come up with ideas. And this is where we came up with a lot of the ideas for the show. But we like to walk. And so we were walking, and there was this huge like power plant with a like this big battery pack and like transformers and all these things, and we're talking back and forth, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden I see him and he's going like this, and I'm like, "Honey, hey, over here." And he just almost like methodically, he was like drawn to this battery pack that was on the side of the walkway that we were on, and it connected to the lights where there was this baseball field, so it connected to the lights, and it was all this power, and he just had to look at every aspect, like, how does this connect to this, how does this connect to this? And both of us, we just kind of had this mind and this eye to look for what's beyond what you see, and what is behind what we're utilizing now in life in every aspect. You know, when you flip a light switch on, the lights come on. That's great. It's a modern invention. It's awesome. We all take it for granted. But what's going on behind the light switch that's connecting to the light, that's creating that light, and what's in the light bulb, and how is it connected? And just asking all these questions that, like, from a child like perspective, like the awe and wonder of knowing something for the first time, but seeing it for the first time after you've known about it for so long, and seeing how it really is and where it really comes from. It's like this beautiful energy of discovery. And so one of the other kind of mantras we had in the company, and when we would make videos and come up with the ideas for the video, was push the boundaries. So what does that mean? Like, let's find out what is the limit of this, and let's see how far we can push. Not in a negative way to break things, but just to see, like, how far can something stretch? How far can something be built, you know? And another joke is, you know, we'd go to Home Depot and Grant would buy like these chemicals, and it would say, warning, do not do this. And that's what we do to see what would happen. Not because we want to create a stir or, you know, be rebellious or anything like that, but it's like, well, what happens if you do that? Like, why? So, you know, in a controlled environment, keeping everything safe, we test these things. And that's how we came up with like some of these really interesting experiments and ideas. And it just kind of, the seed was why, what, how, you know, what is our world around us and how does it work?
I love that so much. And so what were your backgrounds? What are your backgrounds in?
So I got a degree I have a bachelor's degree and a half-finished master's degree. My bachelor's degree is in social science, and I did a minor in family studies. And then Grant actually just barely graduated from high school. And then he was not into academics very much. He really just liked the hands-on learning. He was very tactile, and also had, you know, like some barriers to being able to just sit in a classroom environment. And he was just so hands-on and tactile. So that environment didn't work well for him. So he definitely wanted to get further education, but didn't really see himself sitting in a classroom. And what he ended up doing is he got his pilot's license, which is a 4-year bachelor program. And he did it in about 2 years. And what he would do is he'd just buy the books for every class, study them, take the exams, and get the credit for the class without ever taking the class. So he got a 4-year degree in 2 years doing that. And
that's amazing. And I had no idea.
Yeah. And he also bought his own airplane to then get the flying hours. So he became a commercial airline pilot over the course of like 20 months. I mean, it was like faster than anybody's ever gotten a license.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So we were both really innovative in that way. Just how can we do things and connect the dots to make a process faster, better, more efficient? Like, we both kind of had that personality. And so, you know, when we met, we just hit it off because we were both coming from this place of like, how do we make the world more efficient, and how do we find out things? Right. So yeah, that's kind of our background. And it's more of that, like, hands-on, I've got to find out how things work, just that insatiable desire to learn, but not necessarily in the standard way.
I love that so much. And unfortunately, I mean, we have some schools that have that environment, but so many of our schools don't. I mean, imagine if Grant had that kind of education where he could explore in the way that he has been able to as an adult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that would have ignited him and made him feel empowered that learning is a good thing, because, you know, he in the school setting, it was kind of like, sit down, behave, do it this way. And he's like, no, I want to learn. I don't want to learn about this. I want to learn about that. And, you know, I think as far as like, there's a lot of engineering background in the projects we do, but, you know, neither of us are engineers, but it's that coursework and the studying and the aerodynamics of flight and all that. I think that kind of ignited his passion for just learning about the systems of how things work, and that kind of like engineering curiosity of structure and how do things interact together. So it's all self-taught from, you know, the time we finished our formal education. And I like to say, I feel like I learned more in the 2 years I was out of college than I ever did in school, all my school combined, because I got to learn whatever I wanted. And I just like ate it all up. I was always reading books and learning about things. And it was just this like freedom to learn what I wanted. And so that's kind of what we wanted to embody in the channel, is like explore, discover, create. Like, what is your heart telling you want to learn about? Go do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, and we do.
Yes. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, for sure.
That comes through the video. Passion,
Yeah.
and excitement comes through, and it is a childlike, energy that I absolutely love. Now, what year was the first? When did it first launch?
So this is kind of interesting. So the first video we posted in 2011, but I think we started the channel in 2008, in that we started laying this foundation of, at the time we lived in this basement apartment, we were saving all of our money. We had lots of extra free time because we were really like just focusing on these few goals and simplifying life. And so Grant really like started doing a lot of these experiments from 2008 to 2011, just in our basement. Like he would build all these projects and like just play around with them and have fun with them. And he would show them to all our friends, and we'd have people over and he'd be like, look what I'm working on. And people would be like, oh my gosh, like who are you? Why are you like, I just watch TV in my free time, and you're like building this massive like capacitor and like creating ozone with sparks in your basement, and it's a rented basement. This isn't even your basement. And are your landlords okay with this, And the idea for videos came when we made a water bottle, a fire with a water bottle, and it got all these views. And we had put on this, I think it was a song by some well-known artist. And so it was flagged for copyright. Wow. So we didn't, like it was taken down, but it had like 100,000 views. And like, we were just like, whoa, what just happened? So then we're like, well, let's remake that video and like make it into our style. And so that's kind of what ignited this, let's make videos out of this. But that also stemmed from this mentality that Grant had growing up. Like, if I don't record it on video, it didn't happen and it doesn't exist. So he was very adamant about recording things on video. And this was interesting because, like we were both born in the 80s, which, that dates us. But at that time, the internet didn't exist. We were using video cameras with the cassette tapes that you put in there. And this was all new technology. And like, we were both fascinated by new technology. So, we spent $800 and got this camera with the video cassette. And that's like such an expensive camera, but it was like, I've got to make videos of my life. Like, I have this tool now. This is amazing. And so he just started making videos of like himself and things that he was interested in, just for fun, because the technology was so new and innovative and interesting. And like, it was just such a draw. So it was an interesting mix of timing and technology as we kind of came into this mixture of, where we are now and where it came from. And we were kind of like, our generation was kind of like right in the middle of that. So it was really, really this beautiful exploration of, what's in the world around us and how does it work? And look at this new technology we can use to capture it, and then we can share it.
That's so wonderful. And you're both your parents, right?
What's that?
Your parents.
Yes, we have 4 boys.
Oh, wow. What are their ages?
So our oldest is 11, almost 12. And then our next one is 9. And then our next one is 7. And then our baby is 3.
That's wonderful.
And I, of course, still refer to him as my baby, no matter how old he will be.
Absolutely. I have a 13-year-old son, same. And so our audience, as you know, at LA Parent, we cater to families, and families are always looking for something to do, especially now we're in our homes most of the time. What can kids and parents do together that's exciting, that's breaking boundaries, and I feel like the King of Random offers so many opportunities for families to just step outside the box. How have you been able to integrate your parenting with the King of Random mission?
Yeah, well, so it goes back to the idea of just really allowing for personal exploration of what are your interests. That being said, my boys are still pretty young, and really they just love to climb on everything. And they really loved to do fire and like blow stuff up with their dad. So I kind of have like 4 little pyrotechnic children, so I have to keep that stuff away from them because it's not necessarily safe for their age group. But you know, like they just love to climb on everything and jump off of everything. So that's kind of more the phase we're in. And then when they express interest in learning something, it's like, okay, let's do this. Let's find out about it. What's your interest? And can you write that down for me? You know, and we have them in public school right now, but next year I'm going to be homeschooling my oldest.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of parents have said, you know, we've done this King of Random project as one of our homeschool projects. And, you know, that being said, all 4 of my kids have this background because as Grant was doing these different projects, they were always there. They were always around. He was always teaching them. So, you know, my 2-year-old, one of the things he loved to say as one of his first words and his first sentence that he put together was, this was when Grant was separating hydrogen and oxygen, and we put the hydrogen in a water bottle and then light it off so it would like ignite and then go off like a rocket. And it was so fun and it was so loud. So his first sentence that he loved to say was, hydrogen gas go boom so high. So, you know, like a 2-year-old saying hydrogen gas and it blows up and it goes really high. And I'm seeing this experiment, but
Amazing.
But yeah, like just making it really fun. Like work is fun and teaching our kids that work is fun. And then, you know, like if you look at the channel, we do lots of fun kid stuff. We play with candy and we make things big and we make things small. And it's like, what are fun things we can just do with this? And then Grace is starting a podcast now too, where we are kind of focusing on projects that we can do and talk through and explain. And so I'd love for her to kind of just share a little bit about that and where we're going with like these projects, because that is one of the things that we want to embody is this ability to bring families and people together through learning. And just on a side note, that was one of the things, like when we started this, Grant's original idea was not necessarily to make a YouTube channel, but he said, I really want to make 100 videos of projects I love to share with my kids. And, you know, he did pass away a 1.5 years ago, so he's no longer with us, but we're still running the company. And it was kind of prophetic. What he said is, if I'm not here, I want my kids to be able to do these projects without me. And, you know, that was an interesting place to be coming from. Like he had this love that he wanted to share for exploration with his kids, and to him that was capturing it and sharing it. So, I mean, that's the whole premise is bringing people together in fun learning. And then, you know, especially like focusing on what kids can do. So, yeah.
Grace, I'd love to hear about these projects and also some of your favorite episodes with the experiments.
Yeah, so of course, as Janae was talking about, we are starting a podcast. I'm sitting in the studio now. It's my favorite room in the house, but our podcast is called the Random Theory Podcast because I believe that we have this thing called the Random Theory. It is the king of random, but everything seems to be very random that we do here. Not in the sense of like we're just doing things randomly and seeing what's happening. We're randomly applying our science and our knowledge from different areas and putting it all together to make projects work. And so I think that's the coolest part about this podcast is sometimes in these videos, we get so excited about what's happening, we forget to incorporate the science and talk about it. And so this allows us to like take a step back, look at the video and really dive into the science that's happening here, because science, physics, chemistry, it's all around us and it's what makes life life. And so I think that is the one thing that I'm super excited to dive into for the Random Theory podcast. And then on the video end, oh my gosh, my favorite video. Nate and I actually just did one together that I actually have never done this before. I grew up more digging in dirt and playing outside. Like my parents, they weren't the here's an iPad, play on this, or here's your Nintendo DS. That's aging me. But you know, the Nintendo DSs that everyone had, they didn't allow us to play with those. Instead, they stuck us outside and were like, go discover the world around you. I remember for my 9th birthday, I got a microscope. And for me, that changed my life.
Yeah.
Oh, are you guys there?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Our internet connection can be unstable sometimes.
It is a little.
For my 9th birthday, here, let's see. Oh, you guys there?
Yep.
Okay, you're back.
Okay, good. Sorry. Sometimes our Wi-Fi here just like cuts out on us, or we have too many things connected. But yeah, so for my 9th birthday, I got a microscope, and I will never forget putting pond water on a slide and discovering the world around me.
Yeah.
I just remember my dad just looking at me, and I was like, "Dad, there's stuff moving." And he was like, "I know." And for me, that was like, I am this one thing on this earth. There are little things living in this water, making it do its thing and providing life. And for me, I was done from that point. I was like all in on sticking everything under this microscope, just discovering the world around me. And it was like I was into everything. I was climbing trees, I was digging in dirt, I was pulling up worms, I was anything that I could do to discover the world around me, I was doing it. And so that has been like one of my favorite things and has led me into the science field. But my favorite video that I did with Nate was actually one that we just did. I did not grow up like wanting to explode things like Janae's kids, which they have a large backyard that they could do that in. I did not. But I got to explode spray paint with Nate. And so we put it on a stove and we created explosive art by exploding spray paint. Now, don't stand close to it, stay far away because it's really cool. But I mean, for me to see the pressure this was building, the intensity of the can, where the fault points were, that was just something that was so cool to me. That this can is able to contain all this pressure and all this paint. And just adding heat to it makes it go.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't add heat to it, right?
Right on the can, do not add heat. What are we going to do? Add heat.
Right. The warning label. What happens if we do that?
Right.
It's like, how do you teach your kids the fine balance between that, like explore, but also within boundaries?
Yeah, that's a great question. Something I ask myself every day. How do I teach them this? And it is a fine balance because obviously on the channel, like safety is our number one priority in sharing these sometimes, edgy experiments with how things work, because things you'll find in life, things don't work simply. Not everything's safe. You've got to find out what these lines are. And that's why it's like, push the boundaries, but know your limits too. So, with my kids, I just love to sit down with them and explain to them, if you light a fire and then you light the candle and then you leave and the wind blows, here's what could happen, so with every experiment, it's like, okay, let's look at this and see, here's what could possibly happen. And let's put, preventative measures in place to be ready if something goes wrong or if something, gets more intense than we had expected. And so it's like really thinking that process through and especially teaching our kids the skill of thinking ahead to prevent injury, thinking ahead to prevent disaster, thinking ahead to prepare and plan, which is a life skill in every aspect of your life. Like, here's an experiment and here's a life skill to use with this experiment and in your life. Like, if you put your shoes out the day before, you're not going to have to be looking for them in the morning when you're getting ready. Let's plan ahead for what could be coming. And that's the whole premise of like being able to like look at this project, ask the questions, and then look around that and see, okay, what's possible. And it all goes back to asking these questions around anything, like asking questions, being curious.
That's wonderful. And how do you think that by looking at the King of Random videos and incorporating this as part of your home life, that it can help prepare our kids for life, for real life?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So like Grace was saying, everything seems to be random. And what Grant and I always like to say is nothing is actually random. It's all random by design. Like, there is a mastermind behind why things work the way they do. And, like for us, we're the masterminds behind our lives. We're orchestrating this to create it how we want, like we're the ones doing this. And so, with the King of Random, it's like, there's always something behind what we're doing. And there's actually a lot of intention behind it.
That's wonderful. So if for parents who are new to the King of Random, is there a way they can decide, okay, here are some videos that I could watch for my kids who are preschool, early elementary versus middle school and high school? Is there a way to go onto your site and determine that?
So there are playlists. And so some of my favorite ones are, it depends on what topic you want to learn about, because, you know, within the channel, you can look through and see what topics, like there's liquid nitrogen experiments, which obviously those are going to be for an older crowd. And then there's like camping experiments and, you know, what happens when you dig up dirt and let it settle and you get the clay from the bottom. Like that's a great one for younger kids because they can get their hands dirty and, you know, like discover that dirt is not just dirt and it has different layers to it, and then the clay at the bottom you can play with, and then you can dry it out and make things, you know. So so there's a lot of different facets. There are playlists for different topics, and then there's lots of different just random things that are not really that random, but like just such a diverse amount of different topics that we're covering. So, you know, even the channel itself is about exploration, but we do have specific playlists for each element of, you know, things that have been really popular. Like we have a whole series on rockets, how to build them, how to make the fuel, how to be safe, how to put them together. And like, there's a whole video series of the step-by-step process. So it is a really diverse background of interests within the channel.
Wonderful. So just exploring itself,
Yeah.
itself is fun and
Yeah.
exciting. So
Yeah, and I think something that's, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
oh
off.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and something that's great is like for parents to even preview the content. And so like I did an experiment with milk, and we turned it into plastic, and you can make your own figurines out of it. And so just previewing it and figuring out what supplies you need, so that when you show your child this video, you can be like, oh, well, we have that, but you already have that because you're a parent and you're awesome. And so you went to the store before because you previewed the video, but you have all the things because that's the parent superpower right there. But you previewed it, so you were able to do this experiment right after they watched it when their curiosity is the highest, instead of waiting a day or waiting a week and then getting it. And so that's my biggest suggestion, is strike when the curiosity is like highest, which is right after you watch one of our videos.
That is so important. That happens to my son and myself all the time with baking ideas, because I'm not a baker. I cook, but I'm not a baker. And it's like, oh, let's try this. And I never have all of the ingredients. So that's such a great,
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that too. I just want to add on to what Grace was saying, because it's like, if you're watching your child and you're seeing when their eyes light up and they're like, whoa, what about this? Like harnessing that creativity and that perception that they have of this is really exciting, and saying, ooh, what did you like about that? What do you think we could do with it? And kind of in a way, like just letting your child guide their interest, and you're there to facilitate that. And then being prepared, like in the moment. Kids don't like to wait. So it's not like, oh, I don't have time to do that project right now. Like from a coaching parenting perspective, I'd say, you know, step back and say, hey, my kid is really interested in this. Let me take 10 minutes and let's explore this together. And then I can get back to what I was doing. But really being able to prioritize and just being able to live in that moment for just a minute really accelerates the ability for that experiment to go somewhere when you're ready and prepared. And if you're not prepared, keep exploring.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Look for that. What can we look forward to as far as your next lineup of experiments?
I'm going to let Grace answer that one. We've got fun stuff coming up.
We really do, though. We have a whole bucket of ideas that are down the pipeline right now, that are getting ready to be produced and explored by us on the channel. I mean, there are some really cool experiments coming out in the next couple of weeks, especially. I mean, we played with the classic elephant toothpaste experiment, and we might have put it in a toilet to see what happens when you put it in a toilet. So we just take science and we put it on a different scale and make it a little bit more entertaining. Because I remember when I did elephant toothpaste and more power out of the two. And so for me, that was really cool to put it in this different and new environment.
Wonderful. And I want
Another thing that I would like to add is we are starting a series where we're highlighting teachers, like science teachers, and we're going to be exchanging interactive ideas and doing projects with them. So we've done a couple already, but that's something to look forward to. And also something that the community could get involved in if there's teachers that want to bring their ideas. It's something that we're just starting to open up to our community, and especially to science teachers. And so those are going to be really, really fun. And that's something we'd love to have involvement with. So that's something, that we're really excited about.
And how would teachers get involved in that?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have that. Grace, who's in charge of that, or who would they contact on that? Do you know?
Hunter is in charge of that, and I don't know if we have a direct email link.
Okay.
But I can get in touch with him, and then I can send it over to you and have it put into this, if that works.
Okay. Yeah. So we can get you the contact for who's over that.
Okay. That's something that I know the community would love.
Yeah.
To do.
Yes.
What about the scientists that you choose? What's that process like? The scientists that you choose to work with?
So we, like Grace was saying, we have artists, we have a meteorologist, we have a rocket scientist, we have a virologist. How do you say that? Virologist. Virologist.
Something
Yes.
like that.
I think that there are so many different ways to make science applicable. Like art is a science, and everything that can be explored and quantified is really science. So it's not limited really to scientists per se. It's totally open to those that want to learn. Okay. So I want to say anybody, because like I wasn't a scientist when we started this. Grant wasn't a scientist when we started this, but the world around us is science. So, anybody that has that curiosity and asks the questions, those are the kind of people that we want to be a part of this team and our community.
That is so beautiful. I love it. I'm so excited. I want to go explore some more and try some of those experiments, but I'll go shopping first. I'll pick you when I'm ready.
Yes.
Well, thank you both so much.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. We will get this up on our website. We'll promote it on social media. And then we'll link to the upcoming videos that you have as well.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you.